I think she wants to tell us something. Hold on. That was her one piece, and that's basically the summary of her life. She's very zen. She's the most peaceful, well-behaved dog I've known, and I'm not being biased. She's like my little Buddha baby. And go get him. Where's the ball?
Granny, does your dog bite? Dog bite. Granny, does your dog bite? No child, no. Puppy dog is only. Puppy dog is only a puppy dog. Ho, ho, ho. Granny, does your goose bite? Goose bite, goose bite. Granny, does your goose bite? No child, no. He's only a baby goose. He's only a baby goose. He's only a baby goose. Ho, ho, ho.
My name is Hava Ruben. Many people know me by Hava Rose, so my full name, therefore, is Hava Rose Ruben. I do go by Hava Rose nowadays, though, so you can refer to me as that. Born in Philadelphia, born and raised, grew up South Philly, Northeast, and then ended up in the burbs for high school. Left a good 8 years, I guess, for studies. Was in Baltimore, then Atlanta. Somehow found my way back in Philadelphia. Living now in the Fishtown neighborhood. Been there for about 3 years and love my city. So this is a kind of complicated question, but primarily for 5 years I've been practicing as a chiropractor and working my way into other avenues, inclusive of chiropractic. So I like to call myself a health curator. Still doing the chiropractic thing, turning it into a mobile house call setting instead of a stationary office, and delving into nutrition, food, product line. So an entrepreneur, to say the least. Yeah. The biggest smile is like on my face because we're talking about food, but food is thy medicine. I mean, that's how it all started for me. In schooling, for chiropractic work, I had to take nutrition classes and was taught by a very well-educated and extreme version of nutrition. But I really grew a passion for it, and from there I started to only buy books for reading that were nutrition-based, diet-based, food-based. That's all I wanted to learn about, and still all I really read about. I'm not a big reader, so if I'm reading something, it must be interesting, at least to me. So yeah, food is a huge part of culture, people, medicine. It's just all-inclusive of all walks of life in whatever way it may be, and I have a love for culture, which also ties into the food. Traveling is important to me, so whenever I travel, I want to eat all the foods that they're eating. I want to infuse myself in cultures, and the number one piece of that to me is the food. It says a lot about people, the place, the environment. But yeah, it's also become a huge part in the healing world for me, and finding certain ways to eat to help people live a healthy, happy life. And I always like to experiment with myself and see what really works and what doesn't. So I grew passion for that and threw myself into it, and a lot of people just came to me for advice because they knew and they watched me walk this path of healing through food and changing the way of my life through food. So food is crucial in my life. And just growing up in a Jewish household, there are certain foods, you eat certain holidays or traditional foods. It's like, it brings people together. There was the one thing I told my mom once, not necessarily going to raise my children religious, but be sure I'll be home for holidays for them to experience the food and the tradition and the culture. So to me, the food brings everyone together. So in more recent years, going through a really bad heartbreak, I found myself in the kitchen to keep myself busy and to keep my mind busy. And I'd always cooked, but not with an intention, more just let me feed myself. Here I was cooking with an intention of healing myself, but not only physically, emotionally. So that is where my product line or what I'm trying to start, has come from. It came from a place of heartache and a place of feeling lost. And the kitchen and baking and cooking brought me peace and brought me comfort and helped heal me emotionally and physically. So, yeah, food is crazy. Food is crazy good too. And I am nothing less and nothing shy of a foodie. So, tasted it all, done it all walks of life. And yeah, I love food. It definitely is healing and it brings people together. So that's that. The clap gets her really excited, by the way. Fitness. This has been my whole life. Started bouncing around the house at the age of 2 and doing cartwheels on my own. So my mom decided to put me in gymnastics at the age of 3. So I started gymnastics and dance, young age. But then started to compete in gymnastics. I want to say like 8 or 9, probably. So I competed till I was 13, and then I was like, I'm done. I want a social life. I was over the practices on Saturdays for 4 hours and Wednesday nights and Friday nights. And so I stopped gymnastics at the age of 13, but continued to use my skills and when I became a cheerleader in middle school. And I continued to cheer all the way through high school. So I kind of am built on the foundation of fitness. But after high school, going to college, I definitely neglected fitness because I think more of a rebellious state, like, fuck all the fitness. Oh, am I allowed to curse? Absolutely. Okay. And I didn't want to do anything except experience college at that point. And then, I slowly found my way back to some working out. And then in chiropractic college, I got much, much more aware of my health overall and started to involve myself in competitions. So I did some TRX suspension competitions. Decided I was going to run a half marathon, even though I never ran before, minus gymnastics sprint style. So signed up, did a training for a half marathon in Georgia, and that was an amazing experience. Although I can't say I'll ever want to run another one of those. And since then, came home, and I actually did bodybuilding for a year. It was bikini bodybuilding. I was the Philly champion 2013, and I went to Pittsburgh and competed nationally, and then was over that lifestyle. I wanted to get back to social life again, and was going through a heartbreak around that time too, so that plays a role in all the things in my life, I think, shaping me to where I am now. And most recently, I have done Muay Thai, and not very recently. I've taken a break, but for 2 years, I practiced and trained Muay Thai and had a Muay Thai fight, an amateur fight last year in February, and I was actually maybe one of the most rewarding experiences I've had in fitness. Everything I've ever done has been solo, so in the sense of you're competing against yourself. Running a half marathon is all your own goals that you want to beat or get to. Being a gymnast had team expectations, but there was also always an individual end to it. You get scored individually. You could win individual medals, although you have camaraderie of the team. And bodybuilding was strictly a solo show, although the judging was oh, my dog. But Muay Thai was also obviously a battle amongst yourself, that you train for it and you were the one getting in the ring, but there's someone else that you're going against that will determine the outcome. So that was a really humbling experience that I ended up not winning the fight, although we had a good fight. It was really humbling because it was my competition, although it was set against another person and I couldn't determine the outcome solely. So it was a very different take on competition and fitness for me, and I loved it. And I like to say, people always ask, crazy Hava, why are you fighting or why are you into Muay Thai? And well, one, it challenged me. It is intense workouts, intense training. But I think a lot of it was enabling for me to exude anger, which is some emotion that I never, ever experience. I get sad, I get upset, I get frustrated. I never get angry. So it was a way for me to emote that emotion without actually being angry. And I mean, I smiled my whole way through my fight. It's pretty ridiculous. But the physical act, I think, was a way for me to release a lot of emotion that I've never experienced. So fitness is a journey. I mean, I have a crazy one. Not everyone has such a all over the map fitness journey, but I'm happy to say I've had it and continue it and find my next interest in taking. So we'll see what comes. This is Macy. She's basically my other half. She's got a ball in full effect. She's the rescue that I rescued when I was in Atlanta when she was 6 months old from the good old Cobb County Pound. Her name actually was Wesley when I rescued her. So that's a fun fact about her. Come lay down. I'm not really sure what she is. I like to think she's like a hound boxer mix. In the South. Macy, will you face the camera? She's very rude. No one wants to see her tushy all day. She's a boxer hound mix. Lay down. And she's now 8 years old. So she's been through a lot with me. She's moved every time I've moved with me. She lived at home with my parents when I lived at home with them. I think she wants to tell us something. Hold on. That was her one piece, and that's basically the summary of her life. She's very zen. She's the most peaceful, well-behaved dog I've known, and I'm not being biased. She's like my little Buddha baby. And go get him. Where's the ball? Simon and Garfunkel. This is straight childhood memories, and not specifically this album, but when I hear Simon Garfunkel, I will just note the album I would refer to would be the Graceland Paul Simon album. But growing up in a household with a brother and sister, and sometimes a second sister. So there were 3 of us, sometimes 4. We loved to just dance. That's what we did. We danced around the house. We pulled out my parents' records, and there were specifically 4 records we'd always pick. And Paul Simon's voice, when I hear his voice, it's straight me in a leotard running around at 3 and 4 years old, spinning circles with my sister and brother. And it makes me think of my dad in a good way. My dad's a good dude. And he loves to play the guitar and sing, and he used to sing us to bed at night. And not that he was playing Paul Simon, but when I hear Paul Simon's voice, all I can think of is my childhood and my father singing and playing the guitar. So it's warm, fuzzy feelings inside with this one. And then I picked, let's see, Tracy Chapman. This, too, is also a childhood memory. I feel like my mom put this record on a lot. We didn't have the record of this one. We had the CD. But I remember hearing her voice as a young kid. I think it was my mom's picking always. But her voice is so mysterious and dark. And I just love her voice. And, I mean, it gives me chills every time I hear her. Like a Nina Simone-esque. And she's just raw and simple. And I've always loved that about Tracy Chapman. Good stuff. Leslie. Good old Duke. This is more for the fact of jazz, not necessarily Duke Ellington, but he's an amazing musician. But I grew up in a house where jazz was a lot a lot of what I listened to when my father was picking music, for them cooking or around the house stuff, we always had jazz or classical playing. And I always latched on to jazz in later years, and undergrad took like a class, history and jazz. And I've just always been really drawn to jazz. It's just an environment for creativity and musicality on another level that I feel like I can see it in jazz more so than any other genre. But yeah, Duke's a good dude. Thelonious might be my favorite. I'm not gonna lie, but jazz is something I can play and always feel at ease. So if I'm ever feeling anxious or feeling uptight, I just like close my eyes, think of jazz, or put it on, and I feel real good, real fast. So yeah, good feelings. None of this stuff was too dark for me, but music can bring out some sad stuff too, but this here is all real good feeling. So yeah. So I'm definitely not an art connoisseur, but I really appreciate street art. I think it ties back to my love for culture, and it's a form of expression that I also am kind of envious of. I'm not gonna lie. I am bewildered by people who can draw or paint or create an image. Because although I like to write, that's as far as I go with pen and paper. I'm not doing anything else. But yeah, one of the things that I have to do when I travel, I must purchase art from a street artist. So just a crazy story. So in Thailand, they have this night market, and it's all mostly food and tchotchke kind of things. But I found one booth that had art in it, and it was this husband and wife. And the little broken English they had, he might have been deaf. I don't know. The wife was the only one talking to me, and the little English they had for negotiating, they also told me they were the artists. And I actually came home with 3 pieces from them. It was just it's unreal their art. It was really cool. Another example, in Guatemala, there's a very specific style art that they do there in paintings, like very bright colors. Most of them do the same picture. I don't know what the style is called, but you go into a shop or a little venue, and they all say my family. It's my family, and it's not their art. But I was fortunate enough that someone pointed me in the direction of someone named Jasper down this alleyway, and I found him in this garage, and he is an art teacher, so he is teaching that specific style, and I walked in on him in the midst of this painting. So that was dope, and I brought home a couple pieces from him. But yeah, for me, the street art and the art of someone I meet, that's the rule for me. I have to buy it if I love it, but I have to also have met the actual artist. So again, for me, it's just about connecting with people and the expression, and I just love to include that into my own home, from my experiences and I have stories of everything I have hung. I can tell you where they came from and who the people were that did it. So yeah, art is an expression that I wish I had in that form. So I applaud you who can do it. So yeah. I'm not the biggest movie person, but there's always like the classics that I love, like Mary Poppins, Wizard of Oz, some things that I grew up with. And in our house, we always went to Broadway like twice a year. So I'm really into the musical. So anything that has a song with it, I'm like right in there, as long as it's good music. But on a more serious note, I think one of the films I really was drawn to later in life that I could watch, although I could watch over and over and still get the same emotional response, would be Crash, with Don Cheadle and a whole cast, which is just like this amazing compilation of multiple people's stories and the crossing over and the crossing of the paths and just like watching how so many people's lives intersect without really knowing. So it's just a beautiful movie. If you haven't seen it, just definitely see it. In my opinion, it's definitely one of the top 5 movies, I would say, out there. I also really liked Inception. It's another genre, I guess. Something about dreams really gets me going. So I really believe in a lot of the premonition and like the way you can control dreams. Something about that movie just rung really eerily true to me. So that was pretty heavy, and I love that movie. Anything in that kind of dream memory world, it's really intriguing to me. But I think I have a problem with like sitting through movies unless I'm in the theater and it's taking over, like the screen's taking over my life. But I do find plays, I'm really into theater, and thankfully I was raised where we were exposed to it at an early age, but also my sister being involved in theater, I've maintained an involvement in the city of Philadelphia just because I like to go see her shows or shows that she supports I want to go see. So I have a huge exposure to the theater world in Philadelphia. And I'm not talking about like the mainstream theaters that have the touring companies like the Kimmel Center for people who aren't from Philly. But, you know, like the Book of Mormon's on tour or Wizard of Oz is on tour. Not those like the underground Philly artists like making and creating and performing in the theater world here. So I'm just going to shout out one brilliant artist, Mary Tuanama, and I'm going to say her name wrong because it's a tongue twister for me, but she produces, she writes, she acts, she's brilliant, and she hits on subject matters that probably a lot of people are scared to touch on, and it's just another, like I said, a form of expression that I don't really have the capability of doing. So to watch someone else be able to literally throw their heart out on a stage and address issues that they have or address issues that are going on, that to me is worth watching, and not just worth it, but I get lost in it. So I don't have the ability to lose the attention or have to feel like I need to do something else. Or movie sometimes I'm just, why am I sitting here watching a movie? But so for me, I guess the film isn't as big, but the theater world is really what I enjoy. To watch live action is much more thrilling to me. I can think of 2 really hard experiences in my life, and I'm just gonna talk about one because I think I talked about the heartbreak that led to granola. So I want to talk about one that really changed my perspective. There was once a beautiful, beautiful angel of a girl named Mallory Ashton Burns, and me and her met in chiropractic school immediately at the intro week, and when you're just meeting people, and we couldn't be more opposite, but we had an instant connection. I mean, you see me, I'm brown hair, I'm short, I'm sitting, but I'm actually probably this short standing. And, you know, Jewish girl, raised in the Northeast. Mallory was a tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair-skinned Southern belle. And we really connected. We became, I would call her my best friend to this day, one of my best friends. And she had such a grace about her in the way she went about her life, and I was able to provide her with insight, I think, in just like my nonchalantness and my free-spiritedness and like lack of anxiety about being in a new place and a new environment. I was super excited, and you know, we fed off each other because we had these opposites that we both needed, and we became really good friends, best friends. She also had a dog named Fiona, and Fiona was a little baby puppy when she got her, like I think 4 months, if that. No, I'm lying, like 4 weeks, not 4 months. And I got Macy, probably my dog, who Mallory actually named. but I got her a little bit after Fiona. So we tried to get together. Fiona was a little bit of an alpha, so didn't always work out. But towards our ending of the first year, we decided that she should move into my apartment. I had vacancy. She was not re-signing her lease, and we had a short break coming up before the fall. Mallory and me decided she'd move in. It was the best idea. Why would best friends not live together? And that weekend, I flew home, and she took the weekend, and her boyfriend at the time moved all her stuff from her one apartment to mine while I was away. And I think it was a Saturday I flew home, or Friday, and I believe it was that Sunday I got a phone call from another one of our friends, Casey, hysterical, that Mallory had died. And I found out afterwards she had left my condo, her and Chris, her boyfriend, and Fiona, in 2 separate cars after moving entirely in. And there was a really bad car accident that took Mallory and Fiona. And Chris, her boyfriend at the time, was driving behind to witness it all. And it was weird. It was really weird. It was a really out-of-body experience. And I will never forget the last text exchange that me and Mallory had. And I wish I had it on my phone still sometimes. But we were just talking. She was excited to let me know she was all moved in. And I had just gone through a initial breakup with my later final breakup. But and the last text she gave me as she knew we had gone through this breakup was, "Whatever's meant to be will be." And that's the last text I have from Mallory. And it's crazy to think that someone you know for such a short time, 1, can become your best friend, and then 2, to have that best friend all of a sudden gone. And all that was hard, but I think what made it was maybe the hardest for me was going back to Atlanta to my condo, to a room that was full of her stuff that I had to go through and help clean out, because it was just really hard for her family. So I nominated myself to pack all her stuff and to have ready when they came. Her boyfriend at the time was going to come with a trailer to hitch it and get all the stuff back to Alabama. So that was probably the hardest thing, because I had to, not only was I confronted with a death that I wasn't prepared for, I had to confront it like head on by going through her stuff and finding things, and like finding birthday card that I had given her, which was crazy that she kept it. But things like that, it's just unreal how quick a life can end for no reason. Obviously, it was a car accident. It wasn't for any particular reason. But I mean, I take with me, obviously, her light and her life. And that last text she sent to me, which was, "Whatever's meant to be will be." And I've definitely carried it through my life. And fast forward to a heartbreak that Hava's Handbake was born from. Mallory was very vibrant in that moment of my life. And the text she sent me, and the way she lived her life, and the imprint she left on me and my heart. And nothing's ever guaranteed, and there's beauty in letting go, and I've come to terms with that, and I think a lot of people struggle with that. And I will say the one thing that I've lived by, or tried to live by, especially in more recent years, is a saying, a quote of Buddha, and it's something like this, that only 3 things matter in life: how much you love, how gently you live, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. And I think that is telling of how pure and true you can live your life to your greatest potential, and leaving things that that are out of your control to be out of your control, and that's okay. and just living each day with the most life and and as much love as possible. So if you know me, you do know this phrase is tattooed on me, to an abbreviated version, because that's truly something I believe in and truly something I aspire to do each and every day, because not one day is guaranteed, not one moment is guaranteed. So make the most of it, live it brightly, and let go of the things you can't control.
Josh, sorry I had to leave. If anyone's looking to contact me, though, feel free to find me on Instagram at Hava, Hava .rose, or you can check me out my website, www.havarose.com. Thanks again. Have a good day.